If you're applying to grad school, especially from outside the US or Europe, you've heard it a million times, right? You need research experience. But what on earth does that actually mean? For so many people, it feels less like a requirement and more like this huge impossible wall, a secret club you're not a part of. Well, today, we're going to tear that wall down.
And hey, if you feel locked out, you are definitely not alone. I see comments just like this one from Reddit all the time. It's that classic catch-22, you know? You need the experience to get into the program, but you feel like you need to be in a program to get the experience. It is an incredibly frustrating loop, and that feeling is 100% valid.
So here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we'll tackle the experience wall and the myths that hold it up. Then we're going to completely redefine what research really is. After that, we'll get into the practical stuff, finding, reframing, and even creating your own experience. And we'll wrap up with the most important part, how to tell your story so people listen.
Okay, let's dive right in. Section 1, the experience wall. We're going to start by taking a sledgehammer to the 5 biggest myths that cause so many brilliant applicants to just count themselves out before they even try.
All right, these right here, these are the big 5. First, the prestige myth, the idea that it only counts if it's from some fancy, famous university. Then there's the formalism myth, that it has to be a paid lab job or it's not real. The publication myth, this one's huge, the belief that if you didn't publish a paper, the work was a waste of time. Then, the really damaging unpaid labor myth, that you have to work for free to get a foot in the door. And finally, the silo myth, the idea that your work in industry or for an NGO doesn't count. Look, these aren't just wrong, they're designed to keep people out. They're gatekeeping.
So, moving on to Section 2. Now that we've seen what research isn't, it's time for a really critical mindset shift. We need to get down to what research actually is when you strip away all that noise. This right here is the absolute key. Research is not a location. It's not a job title. It's a process. It's just a structured way of trying to answer a question. You use methods, you use data, and you use your brain. That's it. And that process can happen anywhere. It can happen in a world-class lab, sure, but it can also happen in a local clinic, in an office, or right at your own computer with a public data set. And this slide gets to the heart of it. So many applicants think the admissions committee has a checklist on the left: prestige, publications, perfection. But the reality is, what they're actually looking for is everything on the right. They're trying to find out, are you curious? Do you take initiative? Do you actually get the process of research, including all the parts that go wrong? Can you solve problems and communicate clearly? It's really not about where you've been, it's about how you think. All right, Section 3. Let's get really practical. This is all about finding and reframing the experience you already have. And you might be surprised by how much is already there, just waiting to be seen in a new light. Honestly, this is one of the most powerful things you can do on your application. Your work experience has so much value. The key is just translating it. So instead of saying, I worked in a hospital, you frame it as, I audited patient records. Instead of, I improved sales, you say, I analyzed customer data. See what's happening? You're not changing what you did. You're just describing it in the language of research, data analysis, evaluation, testing. You're showing them how you think.
But maybe you're thinking, okay, but I really want some direct academic experience. Totally fair. Cold emailing professors can actually work, but you have to be smart about it. First, do your homework. Actually, read their stuff. Second, keep the email short and to the point. Mention their specific work and a skill you bring to the table. Third, attach a clean, simple CV. And fourth, follow up. A polite little nudge after a week or two isn't pushy. It just shows you're serious.
And that brings us to Section 4, creating your own experience. Now, this is for anyone who feels like they have 0 local options. And I want to be really clear here, this is a super common situation. It is not a personal failure. So let's talk about how you can build something from the ground up. Seriously, the internet is your lab. You can grab free public datasets from places like Kaggle or the World Bank and do your own analysis. You can join a citizen science project on Zooniverse and contribute to actual ongoing research. If you can code, you can contribute to open source projects on GitHub. You can even take a course on Coursera that has a final project you can put in your portfolio. And let me tell you, these are not lesser experiences. They show massive amounts of initiative, and committees love to see that. So let's make this real. Maybe you're a STEM student in urban Africa and you're worried your university's name isn't big enough. Well, guess what? A deeply documented final year project is a fantastic experience. Or maybe you're a humanities student in South Asia who thinks archival work doesn't count. It absolutely does. Frame it as the independent project it is. For the career changer, it's all about translating that industry work. And for the person with truly no local access, that Kaggle project is your path forward. You see, the key is always to leverage what you do have, to show them the skills they really want. And I really, really want this to sink in. Your unique understanding of the problems in your own community, in your own country, that is not a disadvantage. It's a research superpower. It gives you a point of view and a source of important questions that almost no one else has. You have to own that. Okay, we're on our final section. Section 5, how to tell your story. And look, this might be the most crucial part of all, because doing the work is only half of it. If you can't talk about it in a compelling way, it gets lost.
So here's a simple, powerful framework. For every single experience you put on your CV, whether it was a formal job or a project you did on your own, you need to be able to answer these 4 questions. Number 1, what was the question? Number 2, what were your methods? 3, what did you learn? Especially, what did you learn when things went wrong? That shows maturity. And 4, what's the next step? What new question came up? If you can answer these 4 things, you can prove the value of any experience.
So I'm going to leave you with this one last thought. You do not need permission from a fancy institution to start thinking like a researcher. You don't need a business card or a lab coat. It's a mindset. It's about being curious and systematic. So the real question isn't how you can get someone to give you experience. The real question is, what will you start answering today?